life and grow your dreams. Sandra, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so your book is Thrive After 40, How to Seize Life and Grow Your Dreams.
Mhm.
So, what's magic about 40?
It's a good question. I notice it's a time when, we've kind of been in our 30s and we're at the prime of our lives and oops, excuse me. And suddenly we get to 40 and we realize that, oh, okay, maybe I'm having a few more aches and pains. Maybe my life is, possibly half over and I haven't done the things I want to do. And it's kind of I guess in a time of awakening almost to realizing that, yeah, I mean, I can keep on doing what I'm doing and maybe be dissatisfied, or maybe I can do something different.
Okay, well, just to put things into perspective, um, I am now 76, so I've passed the 40 mark, and uh, actually, I've got kids past the 50 mark. So I know what you're talking about. So, what are the steps that you think people should take? Because I think hitting 40 has more of a psychological impact than a physical impact, or should anyway, if you're eating right and those kinds of things. But what do you think is magic about that, other than just self-reflection?
Well, I think first of all, one needs to really, take a step back and assess where you are basically in your life right now. Look at all the different areas of your life, your personal life, your career, business life. How much free time do you have, your relationships, all of those things, and really think about, what is my satisfaction with each of these areas, and make a note of that and see, okay, well, I'm still okay in my career, but maybe we don't have time to spend with family, or maybe maybe there are other areas that really need a lot of work in my life, or maybe I am beginning to have some health issues and I need to address those as well. So it begins with assessing where you're at, and are you satisfied with that? Because oftentimes we find that we're not satisfied, but we're oftentimes afraid to move forward and make changes in our life that will hopefully put us in a better position.
Okay,
So it really
I
begins
think we
with assessment.
I think we should let our viewers know that you grew up on a cattle ranch.
Hmm.
Um, so I would call you a farm girl. Uh,
Yes.
how much better is living on a farm than living in the city? Because most of us live in the city now.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine not being on the farm. I've been on the farm my whole life, with the exception of, spending 8 years of college, getting my undergraduate and my veterinary medicine degree. But still, even then, I was in a more rural area. It was a college, town out in the middle of the wheat fields. So for me, it's just being able to have the animals around and to be able to have the space and the fresh air. And it's also responsibility. I mean, I grew up having responsibility, animals to take care of, and my kids did, and my grandkids are helping now on the farm. Because they live here as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything right now.
Okay, so there's a lot of therapeutic value in being able to go and saddle up the horse and head out into the woods, or wherever you're going to go, across the plains, whatever. That has a lot of value that we miss today in the city. It's we're surrounded by people, and yet they tell us that we are lonelier than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Um, how do we maybe blend those two cultures together? Perhaps getting a pet, does that help to give you some calmness and smooth your life a little bit?
Hmm. Oh, I think so. I mean, I'm I live in the house by myself. Sometimes I have an intern that will stay there if they're from out of the area. And, granted, my kids are right next door. I mean, a few yards away, so not very far away. But it really is, I don't know, it's very calming to have the animals there. There's never a lack of love in my house. And even when, my interns come over or visitors come over, I mean, the cat loves them and my dogs love them. And yeah, I think it's just very calming to have somebody to, just to give a hug to or get a hug from. My animals like to hug as well. So, yeah. And even if it's a yak or a cow, same thing, just bigger.
I heard a funny story a while back, and the guy said, lock your dog and your wife in the trunk of the car. Come back in an hour and see who's happy to see you.
Oh, yeah, I can see that, I suppose.
So that's one of the nice things about an animal. They're always happy to see you. You come in, they're wagging their tail, and that helps.
Yeah, definitely.
You're still thinking about being locked in the trunk.
Yes, I wouldn't be very happy. Definitely, my dogs would be more forgiving.
Okay, so what do I have to do now after I've hit 40? What changes do you suggest that I make, or do you suggest I make changes if I'm going to quote unquote seize life and grow with my dreams?
Yeah, well, I mean, every new day that we have ahead of us, we have an opportunity to do what we want to do, make some changes if we want to make those changes. And yeah, so I mean, for me, I think about I have done a lot of things in my life, a lot of really wonderful things, met people from all over the world. But still, even now that I'm older, I'm still taking the opportunity to, do scary things. Like I went to Bali last year, and it didn't sink into me how scary that was to go fly across the world by myself. And I was going to meet a group of people, but I hit that button for buying the ticket, and I thought, oh, what have I done? But it was the most amazing, sometimes shocking. It was a culture shock, no doubt about that. But really a wonderful experience. I wouldn't have traded it for anything. And I had to be willing to step out of my comfort zone, really, to make that choice to do that. And I think that's a big part of it. We just have to get out of, keep doing, we have to get out of that doing the same thing again and again every day when we wake up, and think about, if I want to do something, what are the steps I need to take to do this, and what can I do today, or what can I do this week or next week to get a little closer to where I want to be or what I want to do.
Okay, so I think that it's not a lot different whether I'm on the farm, and it's hard to change your routine when you're on the farm. The cows need milk at the same time of day. The eggs need to be picked up. The all of the duties that you've got going on the farm, those all have to be done. And so even though it's a rural, laid back area, that can still be stressful for people.
Oh yeah.
Okay. On the other hand, if I'm in the city, I've got the same issue. I've got a specific time I'm supposed to be at work. I have to face the same amount of congested traffic every morning going and coming home. So I've got all of these routine things. How do I get out of the routine?
Well, again, I think it comes back to thinking about what's really most important to you. Is it more important to have that job that pays more, but you have to drive through traffic for an hour every morning and an hour every night to get home? Or is it okay to, take a job that's closer, or, think about, an opportunity, maybe time to retire? Can I retire? Or if I wanted to retire, what would I need to do be able to make myself still have a comfortable living. So I think it's really looking at those values, those things that are most important to you, and deciding which really, when it comes down to it, is more important to you. Because you know, there are advantages to having a job where you can make a lot of money, or just living in a you know, a house in a certain area. But you have to think about all those other things that contribute to your satisfaction and also your health, because stress is a terrible, you know, stressor on your health. Basically, can cause a lot of problems, and so you really need to think about ways to reduce stress, even if it's something simple. And it's easy to let those things just kind of, you know, keep bugging you for a long time, when maybe it only takes an hour, or maybe it takes a day to fix something. That would make your life easier.
Okay. Well, what are some of the simple things that I can do to change?
Well, yeah, I would say just, you know, looking at if having time to yourself is important, what are ways that you can reduce those usual things that you have to do every day? One might be to delegate. If there's something that takes a lot of time, um, or something you don't enjoy, is there someone that you define that could do that for you? So as something simple as just delegation, which is really hard. It's hard for farmers to delegate oftentimes, because we think we have to be there all the time. But just something as simple as delegation, or scheduling, or, you know, planning your schedule, um, can really make more effective use of your time. And I find that when I am, you know, scheduling out my week, I can put so much more into it, and still have more time, you know, to do the things that I want to do. So
Okay.
yeah, scheduling, delegating, those are a couple of ways.
Okay. Where do you find help as far as farm workers are concerned in today's society?
Well, I was really fortunate that when the pandemic hit, that I did have an intern staying here, and so I've been able to have interns come in, which is really a win-win situation, because I enjoy the training and the teaching and the mentoring for people who want to get involved in agriculture, and yet, you know, they're still getting paid, and I'm teaching them, but you know, they're providing a lot of help and new ideas as well for me. So it's really a win-win situation. So I've been able to have an intern, usually just one intern at a time, come in, and that person is gone. I have a new intern now, she's wonderful. I'm really enjoying having her. And then I'm also very fortunate to have family right next door, and so I do need to go away, they can help take care of certain chores as well. And you know, I've got friends that help. So it's kind of building that network, and having a backup plan, because one of the things that I think we tend to do to ourselves is think that we're irreplaceable. And I was really guilty about that for a long time. And then I got hurt one time, and suddenly I realized no one else, or very few people, knew how to do what I needed done on the farm. And it was a really hard, you know, time. It was a difficult time. And luckily I did have a friend who had helped me out a little bit. And so, you know, he kind of took over on, you know, doing a lot of those things. And, you know, family members helped as well. But I think we need to really plan ahead, for not only just time off, but if something happens to us as well.
Okay. What about the person that's working in the city, that's working an office job? How do they have somebody that can come in and help out?
Do you mean in the job, or in your home, your personal life?
Well, actually, you could have both. Now, you know, in our home, we've had people come in, and you know, it takes about 10 years for that memory to wear off before I can talk my wife into letting somebody in her house again. You know, because they don't do the job the way she wants the job done. You know, she's very picky. I had to quit helping her with the yard work, you know, because I like to get out there and just get in and get it done, get it over with, and go on to the next project. And she's more of a putz along, and get every leaf. You don't use a blower to get rid of leaves. You reach in and you pull them out one leaf at a time from under the bush to make sure that it's done right. So, I mean, that's an extreme example, but it really is true in our workplace. We are doing things that are very unique. I do a lot of online work, a lot of internet work. I can't find somebody that can just come in and take over a project for me.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the difficulty of you know realizing that there are different ways of doing things, and just because I do it my way doesn't mean that that's the only way that it can be done. And sometimes that's hard for me too, but I think it's been really good for me in the last 4 years or so, bringing in an intern. And they have different they think of different ways to do things, and they're brilliant. I hadn't thought of it, and it makes my life easier. So I think sometimes we just have to, both sides need to accept that there are different ways to approach things, as long as we're kind of getting to the same end that we agree with. That we have to kind of just take a deep breath and let the other person do it the way that they're comfortable doing it. And I think that would be very helpful, because yes, like for me on the farm, I know all of my animals, and I can see them from a distance. I can, even if they're the same color, I can pick them out and I know who's who. And I can't expect someone else to know my animals to that degree if they're not there all the time. But however, they can still take good care of them, and they can still make observations, if maybe somebody's acting like they're not feeling well. And so I think we just have to be able to realize that people are going to do things differently. And, we don't have to do everything ourselves. And it's hard to let go of that. It really is sometimes.
Okay. Now, the interns that you bring in, are you teaching them, mentoring them in veterinary work or farm work?
Regenerative agriculture. So basically, a way of agriculture that's going to be better for the land, better for the people, better for the animals, better for your pocketbook as well. But hopefully to improve the soil and improve the health of the animals as well. So that's, and I love teaching. I really enjoy that part. And so for me, it's just a real win-win situation. And they bring in new ideas as well.
Okay.
So it's
So
great.
how many acres are you playing with?
I have, well, our family-owned farm here, actually two farms, the original one and the one where I'm at right now, where the houses are. We have a total of about 145 acres. It's not huge compared to somewhere like in Eastern Washington or Eastern Oregon, some of those Texas, some of those places. But I live in a pretty populated area, so it's a pretty good sized farm for that.
Okay, and so what crops are you growing?
I actually raise beef cattle, I raise yak, and I also have laying hens as well.
Okay, so you're not working as far as putting in alfalfa and harvesting, baling hay and all those things.
No, we were making hay on the farm here for several years, but it got to be hard. It's hard to find somebody who's willing to come in and work on an acreage that's not huge, because you can only do so many fields at a time, right? Um, and so yeah, it just got really hard to find anybody. So I pretty much just purchased the winter hay that I need now. But yeah, we used to do that. I mean, years ago grew corn, but I didn't like all the inputs and such in, putting in, tearing up the ground. It's not what I like to do. So
Okay,
I really enjoy the
and,
animals.
and so the cattle that you are raising, would they be grass-fed beef?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're grass fed and finished. The beef don't get any any grain at all. I also have the yaks. They're raised in the same way, and I sell breeding stock, breeding animals. I sell what we call custom beef, which is somebody could buy a half whole or a quarter of a beef in the fall. But I also have a little retail farm stand, little building, and I'm open all year round on Saturday for that, and sell the meat and the eggs as well when the hens are laying.
Okay. All righty. Well, this has been fascinating, Sandra. I appreciate you being with us on the show today, and thank you for being here. And remember, folks, you're listening to Real Hope with W. Olaney, my guest, Sandra Matheson, how to seize life and grow your dreams. And I'd like to say, remember, with hope, anything is possible.